Okay. As I just mentioned, my name is Kelsey, and I work in the Career Center here at Wenatchee Valley College. I help with resumes and cover letters and the interview process and do mock interviews. And I also am adjunct faculty here. I teach geology. So I'm a geologist. I'll reference that a couple times when I'm talking about multiple jobs or changing jobs in our resume. And today we're going to talk about writing a resume, the step-by-step process, which means that when you leave here, you will have a draft layout for a resume. We're going to actually work through it step by step. And you'll note on the handout I gave you, the handout is this PowerPoint presentation, but in the notes section, I've given you sometimes some prompts and also some additional information. So you're going to leave with a resume, and I've given you space to write down ideas. And I've also brought some resources up here. So as we're working through your resume, and you sometimes want to look at an example, examples are always really handy, I've got a variety of resources up here, and I've listed some of those here at the bottom of this first page. I am all for questions, and especially since there's not many of us, anytime a question comes up, please just ask me. We don't need to wait for a pause. So with that in mind, the purpose of a resume, the reason that we actually do a resume is so that you can get an interview. So you produce a resume and send it into a potential employer so that they will call you in and you could sit down with them and more fully convince them that you are perfect for this job. Therefore, a resume needs to reflect what you have done in the past, whether it's your education or your experience, that really makes you perfect for this job. Sometimes it's both. Sometimes it's your education that gives you those hard skills, the actual technical skills that you need to do the job. And it also could be your previous work experience that gives you some of the soft skills, the ability to communicate, to email, to work in groups, things like that. Those are the soft skills. When you are writing a resume, therefore, you always want to be cognizant of what you're putting on your resume. Are all the items that are on the resume going to help you get an interview for this particular job? Is everything that you list on your resume reflective of the skills that you need to have for that job? And do you also remember all the activities that you've done, whether it's work experience or not? These could also be volunteer opportunities or being a member of a club or a group. So do all the activities that you've done provide you with experience for the job, and are they listed on your resume? Some of the activities we do just because we like to do them, and therefore they may not necessarily give us skills that are particular for a job that we're applying for. But frequently they really bolster those soft skills, and so it's always good to think about that as well. So resume is going to include the pertinent information, and it needs to be directed. It needs to briefly and powerfully communicate all the skills and qualifications that you have for this job. But as I said, it needs to be directed. So therefore, it's focused toward the job that you want. Okay? And so in this particular situation, this isn't a resume, it's a piece of paper that says thumb wrestling champion. If you was actually applying for a thumb wrestling job, that would be fantastic. But you don't need to include information, nor should you include information that isn't pertinent to the job that you're applying for. Therefore, the very first part of writing a resume is actually knowing what job you want to go for. What would be the kind of job that you're going to apply for when you're done with your education? What is your dream job? When you are applying for jobs, what's the very best one that you want to go for? This is just identifying your job target, your objective, and finding out exactly what's required for that. So again, I'm mentioning these hard skills and the soft skills. When you're looking at a job description, it will note the hard skills that are necessary for the job. So So the hard skills are that core knowledge and the abilities that you actually have to know how to do the job. So that could be the ability to use certain software or hardware, or to run a forklift, or to use Microsoft Excel, whatever it is. Those are the hard skills that you have to know how to do, and you generally are trained to do those hard skills. That's what you're coming back to school to learn how to do, if you're coming back to school, or coming to school for the first time to learn how to do. The soft skills, as I mentioned, they're sometimes called transferable skills, and they're called transferable because you could transfer them to lots of different situations. And they describe how you get things done. Are you a good communicator? Are you organized? Do you have the ability to work in a group on a project and actually meet the deadline? Do you have skills that help you manage conflict within the office? These are all soft skills, and you could think of multiple situations where you're able to apply them. So even if you have worked for many years doing one kind of job, and now you're trying to move into a different career, there are soft skills that you learned in the original job set that you could pass on to this next job. So being able to identify both of these sets of skills within your job target is the very first thing you need to do before you start writing your resume. Because your resume is going to show that you have those hard skills and prove that you have the soft skills. So it's going to show that you have a degree or a certification, or that as part of your degree you had to do this and this and this. And the resume is going to prove that you had the soft skills because you always managed things on time. You had a high GPA. You completed certain projects. You managed an entire set of people at another job. So it's going to prove that you have those soft skills. Both of these are important. These employers really like to see because they're really hard to teach people. So they want to see that you already have some of those soft skills. So take a few minutes and write out your hard skills, what you're being trained for, maybe what you've been trained for in the past, and then also some of your soft skills. So I gave you an example for me. My hard skill is a degree in geology. So that means, as part of getting that degree in geology, I have certain skills that I was trained to do just as a geologist. My soft skills are, I'm organized, I work well in a variety of conditions inside and outside, I have strong communication skills. Okay? So these are the skills that are going to pass around to whatever kind of job I have, and those are the hard skills. So take a second, you could either type it out, or I gave you space below on that page, and you can write out a couple of those things. You don't have to be extensive. Perhaps in your education right now, you actually have quite a few hard skills. All right, so as you guys can see, this is not quite as straightforward as it first appears. Sometimes trying to think of actually this sometimes is the hard part, trying to think of our soft skills. Hard skills are usually what your degree or your plan in school is, what you are being trained how to do, and the soft skills. Sometimes it's harder for us to think about those. You also want to think a little bit about how you want to be perceived. So your resume is going to reflect those skills that are pertinent to the job that you are trying to apply for. So you want to make sure that the way that you're perceived on your resume shows that you are perfect for this job, and that you're not necessarily perfect for some other job. This means that what you might want to do is have a master resume. And what I mean by master resume is a resume where you put down everything you've ever done so that you don't forget. Because if you're like me, you think, oh, I one time did a such and such, and that would be really important to this job that I'm applying for now. Maybe for a week I did this volunteer opportunity, and it would really apply now, but I can't actually remember who the supervisor was or the exact dates. So if you have this master resume, then you could put down all of the work that you have done, and you could keep track of the dates and who the supervisor was and so on and so forth. And then that master version is where you could take some of the information pertinent to the job you're applying for now. So your master version would just stay at home. No one else sees it. It's kind of just where you keep track of what you did. And then you can have a variety of resumes that come off of that master version. So for example, I'm an educator and I'm also a geologist. I have a master resume that no one else sees, nor if they saw, would they be able to decipher, because it's all my notes about what I've done. But from that master resume, I'm able to do an educator resume and a geology resume. Because the educators don't care about the geology aspect of it, right? All of this, what I'm helping you with, they don't care if I'm a geologist, and the geologists don't care if I know how to do all these things. So you have two different resumes. So you might think about having that master resume to reflect the things that you have done in the past, you may want to have as a job again, and to reflect some of the things that you are going to school for and maybe you're trying to pursue right now. But regardless, you really want to think about what your resume looks like. How do you want that employer to perceive you? All right, we have different kinds of resumes. Chronological, functional, and combination. Chronological is just like it sounds. It is a chronological listing of employment, so what you've done in the past, and a listing of your education. It has your most recent experience and work work backwards. So you start with your most recent and you work backward. Sometimes this isn't the best for individuals with job gaps, or if you are changing careers, or you have a new graduate, any of those, because it shows a big gap in that chronological sequence. The next are functional. A functional resume highlights all of the skills and your accomplishments and all of the experiences that you've had without specific dates. So these are my accomplishments, this is what I've been able to do in the past, and these are my skills. And it's organized by function of skills needed for that job. So whatever job you're going for, you have to know ahead of time which skills are needed, and you could organize your resume that way. What we're going to work on today is actually a combination version. This doesn't mean that you always need to do this combination version if you look into one of these two and you like it better. But the way I'm going to help you lay this out is this combination, because it has both the best parts of your chronological and also of the functional. It has a section, a functional section, that highlights your skills, accomplishments, and experiences. We call that your skill summary, or your accomplishments, or your key skills, any of those terms. And that also has a chronological listing of your employment, education, and other experiences. So it kind of combines both of those. And there's no set way to do a resume. Different people like resumes in different ways. But a lot of employers, when you look at information about resumes these days and they do polls, a lot of them like this combination because they do like to see your work experience in chronological terms, but they also like to know what your accomplishments are and what your key skills are. I keep blinding myself by this. I don't know why I don't do it in other rooms, but this one I keep walking into it. There are some things to consider as you're writing your resume. First of all, use short phrases. Short phrases corresponds with easy reading, and you want this to be easy for an employer to read. Especially if they have 20 or 50 or 100 resumes, you want yours for them to be very easy to read. They're not going to have to think too much about all of the reading, or otherwise they're going to set it aside. You can use sentence fragments. So after all this English for all these years, it's actually all right to use sentence fragments in your resume, and it should flow very easily. You need to keep it brief and to the point. Don't use responsible for or duties included. So when you are describing your duties from previous jobs, you want to use as active language as possible. So you want to use first person, you want to use lots of verbs, you want it to be very powerful. When you say duties included, that doesn't mean you actually did those things, those were just your duties. You want to write what you did. I sold, I managed.
It says to drop the word
You can drop the word I. So you dropped, managed, sold, planned. You could put I in there, but you always want to think of the I and then drop it later. Does that make sense?
Why would you want to, I guess I'm understanding why you want to drop it.
It just makes it flow better. So.
It sounds more like you're bragging when you say I did this.
No, it just makes it flow a little bit better because these are sentence fragments. You're not writing paragraphs. But you can write it in as I manage such and such and then later go in and take the I out. These are sentence fragments, so it's okay. Always be consistent with your verbs. So if you are talking about the job that you're currently doing, then you built, taught, supervised, managed. Those are previous jobs. Previous jobs you built, taught, supervised, managed. Your current job you are building, teaching, supervising, and managing.
So what would you use instead of, like, a lot of the stuff I do is really responsible for and duties include, it's pretty to the point.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I didn't manage them, I didn't supervise them.
What did you do?
Just usually somebody will start a project or somebody will start a project and then they'll give me the documentation and I have to ensure that it keeps, that is assigned to the correct project, that it keeps on getting.
Okay, so what you just told me is ensured that documentation was assigned to the correct project.
But there's like hundreds of little bits and pieces.
Okay.
Like that,
so in that you'll want to pick out the ones that are most pertinent to whatever job you are applying for, and really focus on those ones. So your job maybe had lots of responsibilities, lots of duties. You'll want to pick out the ones that are really going to be pertinent to whatever job you're applying for right now.
It goes back to having just that master resume really rough around.
Yeah. So you can remember. Sometimes you won't forget. Maybe you did it long enough that you won't ever forget. But you want to pick the ones that are pertinent. So, if you are applying for an accounting job, you want to choose maybe some of them that are really detail-oriented or where you really had to keep track of small parts of the process to make sure that the end product turned out correctly. All the things you would use in accounting. And in your case, you said that in the past you did some managing.
I'm a manager, but now I'm going total opposite way. Now I'm working with children. Of course, you have to manage.
There you go. I was going to say, I'm not sure it's as totally opposite as you probably think. Probably managing children is easier than managing adults. So you'll want to think about how the verbs of the stuff that you did in the past relates to what you're doing now, and then really use the ones that are pertinent to what you're going to do now. Stay away from jargon and define your acronyms, except when the jargon is inherent to the position. Okay? So if you are going into computer technology and there's some jargon that's inherent to the position and everyone's going to know what that jargon means when they look at your resume, then that's all right. Nurses, a lot of nurses come to me with their resumes, and a lot of the stuff that they know how to do, I have no idea what that jargon means, but they're giving it to a nursing manager. She or he's going to know exactly what that means. So you can use jargon if it is pertinent to your job, but if it's pertinent to some other job, then you'll want to make sure that you define your acronyms and you don't use the jargon inherent to that. Most importantly, you want to use active voice, and this is using verbs to describe your experience. So here's the passive voice. I have had experience organizing fundraisers for the PTA at my daughter's school. And your active voice is organized, successful school fundraiser. There's benefits to this. First of all, it shortens the entire sentence. It gives you more room on your resume to put all of the pertinent information. And it also has a lot of force behind it. Now, I have had experience. That means the experience was done to you. This active voice says you actually did it. You organized a successful school fundraiser. Experience wasn't done to you. You did the experience. So this active voice sometimes takes a little getting used to. And this is a good reason why after you're done with your resume, you have somebody edit it so they can make sure that you're consistent with it all the way through. Also, throughout the entire time, you want to think about selling it. Not just telling what you did, but selling it. This doesn't mean bragging. I actually had a conversation with someone earlier today that they said they were really nervous because they felt like they were bragging. And especially in our society, we're taught not to do that, not to be a braggart about things. This is different. Selling it means you show what you actually have done. If you actually have done something that you're talking about in your resume or your cover letter, then you're not bragging because you actually have done it. If you said you were the best person that you ever did it in the entire world and no one could do it better, well then you're bragging. But when you say, this is what I did, this is how I did it, these are the results I got, then you're not bragging. And that's also a way to sell it. So telling it is stating the facts, but selling it is highlighting the skills. So here we have participated in the development of a new curriculum for the English department. Selling it puts in some of those details. Appointed to a 3-person team charged with developing a new English curriculum for over 2,000 students and for designing and producing all supporting materials. Do you guys see the difference? This one shows the work that had to go into it. It was a small team, there were lots of students, and there were lots of different parts toward building that.
One gives details and the other one just gives.
Yep, the facts.
Yeah. So one you're there and the other one you're just looking at.
Exactly. So therefore, you really want to focus on all of your results and accomplishments of things that you've done in the past or that you've done in your schooling. What have you accomplished? What were some of the results from that? Because those are going to give the details that show how hard you can work and what a good employee you would be. If you can, always think of it in the terms of problem, action, and results. So what was the problem? They need a new curriculum. Here's the action we took, designing and producing all supporting materials. And the result is that there was a new curriculum for over 2,000 students. So if you could think of it in that manner, it'll help you lay out some of your descriptions in your resume. Actually, before we even get to that, how many, or you already know because you've recently got the position, how do you guys know exactly what you're going for when you're completing your program? Do you know exactly what the job title is? Okay, perfect.
Accounting technician.
Great. Right now, find a job description. If you don't already have one, find a job description for the job that you'll be applying for. It doesn't have to be in this area, so you could just Google for jobs in whatever. But find a job description so that you can kind of have that in mind and keep coming back to it. And if you know,
Preschool teacher.
okay, so you might Google that, or if you already have the job description somewhere for the job that I don't know if they had a job description, they just,
Well,
you were already doing it, right?
I was an assistant,
Mm-hmm.
and then
And now you're,
the position came open.
Excellent.
And they said, you should apply for it. And I said, I'm not done with school. I said, that's okay. So
Good.
I applied for it and I was done.
well, you might try
I didn't even
Googling.
apply for it, actually. They called me and said, you're the job. I said, yes.
Yeah, because they knew how wonderful you were at it. So try looking for a job with the same title, just a job description, so you can keep that in mind. Is so that you can see what the key words and the way that they phrase their description for the job that you're interested in. You can look at all the skills that are necessary. A lot of those you probably already know, but you can also see some of the soft skills they're looking for. Sometimes they kind of hide it within the way they phrase things, but you should be able to find those. And that way you can have that to kind of refer back to as you start writing your resume. It's also key for when you write a cover letter. You want to have your job description, whatever job you're applying for, open right next to you while you're writing your cover letter, so you can address all of the things that they want. So the very first part of your resume is to do a heading. Your heading tells the reader who you are and how to contact you. You want to make it visually appealing with attractive font that's easily readable. And most of the time, your name is in a larger font than your contact information. You don't want to put graphics and things on your resume unless specifically what you're applying for is a graphic design job. And then what would be even better is if you had a portfolio of all the things to send in. So don't include small art on the side of it unless that's actually the job you're applying for. You also want to make sure that the most reliable ways to reach you are listed. If you don't check the email that you list, then don't put it down. Check the email that you write down the email that you check on a regular basis. Your telephone number. I consistently actually have this problem with people who come in to talk to me. They leave a telephone number and I try and call them back and they don't have a voicemail set up. So there's no way for me to leave them a message to tell them to call me back. Okay? So if you don't have a voicemail set up with the telephone number that you leave, set up your voicemail or give them a different telephone number where they can leave a message. So you want to make sure that all the ways that you have listed for them to contact you are actually reliable. In addition, if you're going to send your resume out onto a program like Monster or Indeed where you put your resume out for lots of people to search it, you might consider leaving off your address, just so people don't know where you live. If you're sending it out into the great wide world, you probably don't want your address to be there. When you're applying for jobs locally or even within the state, by all means put your address. People like to hire local people. So then you do want to put your address on there. It's just when you're sending it out into the world, you probably don't want your name attached with it for all the variety of reasons. So right now, if you don't already have a Word document open a Word document. It doesn't have to look this way. It's obviously a British version. It's okay to do it the British version way. You could come look at some of the other ways that they're laid out in here. There's just tons and tons of examples. And so you can see some of the other ways. If you're still working on your heading, that's fine. The next part that you want to list is your skills summary. So look over the job description that you have open and read the hard and soft skills that you listed earlier, also the ones that are on the job description, and write those in a summary of qualification. Only put the ones that you actually know how to do. Sometimes jobs will list a skill that you don't know how to do yet. That's okay. There is some training that's done on the job. You don't have to know how to do all of them, but list the ones that you do know how to do. And you could call this a skills summary. You could call it a summary of qualifications, key qualifications, key skills. There's a variety of ways that you could put that. You can write it out as a summary paragraph, or you could do bulleted list of skills. So here you've got two. Here's the paragraph version, and there's also, that's onto the, here's the two. Paragraph, bullets. So there's a couple different ways you can lay those out, and it's up to you how you want to do those. So you are wrapping up your heading, that's fine, and then otherwise move on to the skills summary. All right, again, I'm just going to move on a little bit so we all keep flowing along. After your skills summary, you guys still might be working on it, you'll want to list your most recent education first with your date of attendance and when you expect to graduate. And then also list any licensures, certifications, any of those things. So for here, for example, Wenatchee Valley College, 2012 to present, the nursing program with an AA degree and expected graduation. So you'll want your most recent, which would be right now, first. Plus anything else that you have, any certifications that are up to date, any of those licensures, any other schooling that you've had, you'd list afterward. And you could just list that with the education. That could be your heading for it, just education. All right, after you've got your education and certifications in, you'll want to start on your professional experience, your work or professional experience. You could call it either of those, work experience, professional experience. It's up to you. And make sure you focus on the working experience that you have that makes you qualified for your job target. Even if it was an entirely different career, make sure that the things that you did at an entirely different career are focused toward this new job. That doesn't mean to just entirely pick and choose. You do want to show some of that chronological progression. Employers do like to see the chronology that you have stuck with jobs, but you do want to make your descriptions so that they are focused towards your new job target. This is what you're really describing your work experience, how it fits, even if it was in a different career. Also make sure as soon as you get a new job in whatever your current pathway is, or if you just recently got a new job in your current pathway, you want to update your resume right away. And that's partly so you don't forget, and partly so it's always up to date. This is where you also will want to use that active voice, try and use as many verbs as possible, drop the I, make good, strong descriptions.